you have used Turnitin if you've used plagiarism software before. We have purchased a new software called Copyleaks. Now, when we purchased Copyleaks, we were told that it also had AI detection, which is why the system was so interested in the software. However, the Brightspace administrative team, so all of the people like me, the instructional designers and professional developers across the system, got together and did a test and found that Copyleaks AI detection was at best 11% accurate. And we tested others and determined that that seems to be the case because as quickly as AI um, learns to generate text, uh, and as quickly as we learn to try and spot AI generated text, AI has figured out how to trick that AI detection software. So what we're going to learn today is how to work copy leaks, and also a little bit about AI. And on that note, as of Monday, a 40-page research paper that I co-authored, lead authored with Barbara Bartley, our former librarian at KV, was accepted into the peer-reviewed journal Advances in Online Education. So you will be hearing some peer-reviewed research on artificial intelligence and particularly information literacy and how to detect it, how to deflect it, and how to identify when you think it might be happening in your courses, but also when and how to use it in ways that are useful to you as an educator. So to begin, let me just share my screen if my computer will now work with me. And I have prepared kind of a course site to show you where and how Copyleaks works. So just as with every other method of instructional design that I have taught you over the years, when you go to build out anything in Brightspace, anything at all, you always want to go through content. And once you're in that content area, you'll create a table of contents. And if you don't have anything in your table of contents, you can create something in your table of contents by adding a module. And that's where you want to put all of your stuff, because that's where you provide the context, the linear experience, the timestamps, all of the things that allow your students to know they're going in the right direction, they're in the right place. When we walk into a classroom, we know where to sit because the chairs are all facing the whiteboard. And the instructor is usually standing at the whiteboard and they're writing on it, or they have a projector up. But when we're in an online class, we don't have those clues. And so the instructor has to build those clues, and we build them through content. So everything you do, we will always ask you to start with content, because it's the best way to establish the behavior both in yourself and in your students so that they don't miss anything that's critical to their learning experience. Now, with Copyleaks, which is our plagiarism tool, again, not AI detection tool, plagiarism detection tool, it's going to be slightly different than what you're used to. So when you were using Turnitin, you would create an assignment, usually upload, create new, and you would add a new assignment. And then there was a little button you could select that would allow it to enable Turnitin, enable the plagiarism detection feature. And that would get you going. And you would have, after about a half hour or so, a report that it would generate that would tell you whether or not a student should have cited something. Because remember, it doesn't actually tell you if a student has plagiarized. It just tells you if content is suspiciously similar to something that should or should not be cited. So it will flag content for you that may have been copied and pasted from a website or a book, or that may have been paraphrased but not paraphrased enough from a website or a book. And what it's doing is it's flagging, it's telling you you should at least look for a citation. If the student has attempted a citation, maybe it's not plagiarized. Not saying that it isn't, because it is possible to plagiarize by faking a citation, but at least you know with that plagiarism detection tool that there might be something to look for. So with Copyleaks, you're going to go about it an entirely different way. And it's going to go against everything that your intuition has taught you and everything that our team has taught you from the beginning, which has always been, if you want to make something new, you click this blue button. In this case, if you want to make something new, you click existing activities. And that is the first thing that already as an instructional designer makes me want to just shake Brightspace and say, why? Because it's so confusing and goes against everything that we've been taught. Because existing activities means it's something you've already created and you're pulling it into your content. But in this case, it's not. It's something you're going to create new. So let me show you how you create an assignment that is Copyleaks enabled. And I do have some that are ready-made, so we can jump right into that. But what you're going to do is you're going to go to a content area wherever you want the Copyleaks assignment to be. So week 1, week 2, or this handy module called Copyleaks and Generative AI. You're going to click Existing Activities, and then you're going to click Copyleaks Assignment Tool. Now, I want you to notice Copyleaks Instructor Scan Tool is there as well. But the assignment tool is how a student would submit something to you. The scan tool, for those of you familiar with Turnitin, remember how in Turnitin you could kind of go in the back door and run a paper through the plagiarism checker without having it be part of the assignment, just in case you were a little bit suspicious and you could get a report back? Well, you can do the same thing with Copyleaks, and that is the scan tool. But for right now, we're going to create an assignment that students can use where they submit content that is or is not, or that is submitted through Brightspace that then will be detected for plagiarism. And so I just clicked Create Copyleaks Assignment, and everyone can see the pop-up on my screen, correct? Okay, thank you. Sometimes pop-ups do not show, so if you do not see a pop-up, do not be afraid to speak up. So the first thing you have to do, just like with anything else, is provide it with a name. So I am going to call this demo Copyleaks assignment 2, or 3 rather, because I've already got 2. And just like with anything else, you're going to provide instructions. Now, I am going to teach you a trick toward the end of the lesson to deflect AI responses. But for now, I'm just going to give some basic instructions. I'm going to tell my students, write a paper on, someone give me a subject. Who have we got teaching today? Any subject at all?
Write a paper on vitamin D.
Love it. Write a paper on vitamin D and its impact on the body's nutrition. And we'll say, put it in APA 7th style. Okay, so we've got our instructions. Thank you for that help, by the way. As with any other assignment, you can add an attachment. So if you've got a document like a rubric or something that you want the students to look at before they write the paper, you can add that. You can add an answer sheet. That's really if this is like a quiz for you. But these are attachments that you can add. You must add a due date. It will not let you get past not adding a due date. And I have found personally that this can get buggy. So when I was testing this, I would type in a due date, and as soon as I'd get the due date typed in, the whole thing would cancel. So what I learned was, and I'm going to ask Dylan to speak to this in just a minute because Dylan also tested this. So if you've had other experience, let me know. But what I learned was, don't try to use the built-in calendar tool. Just type the date you want into the bar, put a space, and then put the time. It doesn't have to be like military time. It doesn't have to be 23:59 p.m. It can be 11:59 p.m. Because if you try to use that calendar tool, for some reason, it just bugs out and kicks you out of the the tool. Dylan, did you experience that as well?
I did have a similar experience with that. And if I remember correctly, even if you put it in as 11:59, it will end up like converting it to military time, right?
Well, I guess we'll find out because when I just did it earlier today, it did keep it at 11:59, but perhaps it's presenting it as 23:59. I didn't actually
Right.
notice that. That'll be interesting. So key point there is type it in. Don't click on this button because for some reason there's a bug. And yes, we will talk to Brightspace and let them know the bug is there and try to get them to get it fixed. In the meantime, our workaround is you must enter a due date to use Copyleaks and you must type it in or it'll bug out. This option here is if you want to allow submissions after the due date. So if you don't want to let students submit after the due date, one of my classes, I have a very strict no late work policy because it's a workshop class, it's creative writing. If they're late, then they can't workshop, then I don't accept it. So I would not check that box, but you might be more graceful than I am. Or maybe you have an assignment that's a little more flexible. So if you feel that, you can check this box. And then these things are a little more intuitive to you. Your max grade, this could be a journal entry, so maybe it's 3 points. Maybe it's a paper, it's 100 points. You can add this to your grade book into a grade category after the fact. So whatever points you put in here can be relative to your overall graded structure at the end. So whatever point value you would assign to this in your normal method of grading, you can do that here. Number of attempts is the number of times a student can try to upload a paper to this. So you might just say 1. I generally at least say 2 because often a student will have a misfire and then they're going to email you and say, oh, I accidentally sent you a paper that was half baked. Can I please have you delete it so I can send you a new one? And then this kind of just buys you the time so that you don't have to go through that process of deleting their old attempt and starting a new one. So I usually suggest you have at least 2 attempts. But if you want, if you are able to just set it to 1, you could set it to 100 if you want. And then maximum files allowed. Well, that's really up to you as well. In one class that I teach, my students are often working with primary sources, and primary sources can be text, and I want proof of their citations. And so I ask that they take photographs of the books. And so I will tell them, not only do I want your paper, but I want a photograph of every book you used in your paper. And so that means they may need more than just 1 file upload. So I can do 10, I can do 100, I can put any number of files here. And all that means is that when a student is using one of those 2 attempts, they can load up to 100 files at a time. You can limit that whatever you want. So I'm going to limit that to 3 files. If I select this box here, allow submission via text editor, this means that not only will it accept a paper upload, but it will also allow the student to type into a comment box. And Copyleaks will still check it for plagiarism. So I'm going to go ahead and select that just in this particular case. And then here we want the scan to happen upon submission. So as soon as the student submits it, because it does take a little bit of time. It's not instantaneous. It does have to scrape the entire web and the entire repository of papers to see if there's any hint of plagiarism. So upon submission is a good idea. And then it's up to you whether or not you want to show the students the originality report or not. You can keep it to yourself, maybe hold it back and have a discussion with them later if it comes up as a red flag. And then add to gradebook or leave it out of the gradebook. So I'm going to go ahead and add this to gradebook. Now, I might have a weighted gradebook. If that's the case, I will have to go into my gradebook after the fact and make sure this is in the correct column. But for now, I just want to make sure this is in the gradebook. And I do want to expose the originality report to students. So that's how you set up a Copyleaks assignment. As soon as I click submit, it's going to pop it into the bottom of my module. And I'll just scroll down so you can see where it is. There it is. Demo Copyleaks Assignment 3. But I have Julia Child's this, very dated reference there, and made some Copyleaks assignments for us to look at, and already set these up and already submitted a paper. Now, to submit a paper, I went ahead and did this. I went over to ChatGPT, our favorite AI generative chatbot, and I said, write a paper, and in fact, I'm going to try something for you all now, about vitamin D and its nutritional impact on the body that cites sources in APA 7th edition style, both in text and in a reference page. Oh, look, I'm a really smart student. I know I've got to put all that stuff in my paper so that I don't get caught for cheating. But because I want to get caught for cheating, I'm going to say, and make sure it includes a blatant attempt at plagiarizing a public website. So now your friendly neighborhood instructional designer and bolts technician don't have to come up with these papers on our own. We can use ChatGPT to generate these papers to run a test for you. Now, I am going to talk about AI toward the end of this session, but I just want to draw your attention to something. Who here is familiar with APA citation style? Show of hands or shout out. Okay, got a hand. So what's missing right out of the gate that an APA paper should have if it's correctly formatted?
A heading page or I'm sure there's other
Bingo.
names for that, but that's what
Yeah.
that comes on top of my head.
Heading page, title page,
Yeah.
all the same thing. A top page, right? This does not have that. So when we get to the AI section, I want you to remember that one of the big giveaways that somebody might have used AI to generate their paper is it's not going to have your APA title page or your MLA upper left-hand corner header page. It's just going to jump right into the text. And what's something else you notice that maybe isn't so common in papers you get from students? How many of your students write you papers that have big, bold headers like that?
No, that's what I was gonna say. It's too clean and organized.
Yes. And I'm a writing professor. So not only would this be like, wait a minute, why are you using headers in a 5-paragraph essay? You don't need headers for that. You need headers for a 30-page essay, not a 5-paragraph essay. I need transitional statements between paragraphs. Gosh darn it. So that's what I'm looking for. But already I'm like, there's a ton of headers here, and that is strange. Another hallmark, since we're talking about it, that something was generated is that they might include numbered lists or bullet lists, depending on how the prompt is folded in. So if you get a paper that is missing a header, a title page, or it includes headers, and it's a very short paper particularly, or it has numbered or bulleted lists in it, it's a very high probability that it is AI generated. And also I find this very interesting. It did cite sources. Now, there's something that you need to know about AI. AI will create fake sources, and it's called a hallucination. So that's the actual term. When AI generates a fake source, it is called an AI hallucination. So we can go and we can actually check all these DOIs, but we're going to let see if the plagiarism checker gets it, and see if they're actual websites, actual articles, or if this AI generated paper really just stole everything. So I'm copying the content. And by the way, at the bottom, it did say I just didn't copy it. This paper follows APA 7th edition style and demonstrates how plagiarism can occur when content. Now, a student's likely not going to copy that if they're trying to cheat. So that's why I'm not copying that for you right now. So let me go back into the one we just made and let's submit that. And while that's cooking, I'm going to show you some of the ready-made cooking ones. So first, actually, I need to impersonate a student. So let me pretend to be our Kennebec and actually submit that paper. It'll take me just a second. As faculty, you are not able to do impersonations. So this part would not apply to you. But as admin, Dylan and I can do impersonations. And this is one of the ways that we help determine if a break is something that's broken is unique to a singular student or to everyone in your class. We'll impersonate someone and just see, hey, are they seeing the same thing everyone else is seeing? So right now I am Kennebec, the student, and I'm gonna submit what I just copied from ChatGPT into the text box here as soon as it lets me. So here's the assignment. Pretty sure I can submit my answer. Oh, good thing I have 2 attempts. Because I think I need to put it here. I have not done the text box entry yet. Dylan, have you?
The text box entry,
Yeah.
uh,
Where do you submit it?
when I had set it up, I had it not open within Brightspace. I had it open in a new window.
Okay.
So it looks a little different. I haven't done it embedded like that.
Okay. So I have not tested the text box entry. My guess would be submit answers, but see how it's making me do a document. So I'm just going to go ahead and make a document then. I have Word. I just need it to work for me.
Can I ask a quick question while you're uploading?
Absolutely.
So will the student know that they're uploading it into Copyleaks, or is that not clear to the
Oh,
student?
everything that you see is what you and the students see. So it
Okay.
says right there on the page, Copyleaks.
Yes, okay.
And the key is you have to create a Copyleaks assignment. So it is critical that you use that existing activity button and create that assignment and content somewhere. And as soon as the student goes in, like I'm actually a student right now. What you just saw is what a student sees.
Okay, I see.
So,
I did it the other way. I downloaded their papers and then uploaded it into Copyleaks, so that's a different.
so you've already done a teacher scan.
Yes,
Good.
but I like this way because I think it's actually good for them to know that they're uploading it into a plagiarism checker. So it's good to know.
I agree. I agree. And I also agree that they should see the report, and especially if you're going to call them out on the report, because they might assume, oh, I'm going to get away with this. I was still with me? Okay. Do I keep freezing for you all?
Yeah, a little bit.
Okay. So hopefully you didn't miss too much, but I said they might think that they're getting away with something if they upload into a paper. So when we get to the section on how to deflect AI, I'm going to give you a method. Okay, so they've uploaded the document. This is the student, remember, they've uploaded the document. It's here. They're going to save their changes. And I believe I have to submit the answer. And it's actually running the detection right now. Now, this is actually going to take some time. So what I'm going to do is let that go. I'm pretty sure if I stop impersonating him, it will still go.
Yeah, it should. One caveat too, that's worth mentioning is when you create an
Mhm.
assignment using Copyleaks, it won't show up under the assignments tab, because it's not a native Brightspace assignment. It is linking to an external tool. So really the only way to view that assignment is through the content tab.
Right. Okay, so for demo assignment 1, I did generate a paper using ChatGPT. And this is the overall, I only submitted 1 paper, but imagine if you had more students here, you would see there's a pretty high plagiarism score for this student. So Kennebec isn't doing so well today. And Kennebec's AI detector score, 100%. Now remember, we did not buy the AI detection. So you cannot rely on the AI detection, even if it comes up. And that's going to be a little confusing, I think, for a while, because there's this period of time that we have copy leaks where we have something called tokens. And once they're used up, we should no longer see any score at all in AI detection. But for a period of time, we have it. Now, in this case, it got it right. Yes, this is an AI generated paper. But when we were testing it, I submitted a paper I wrote as an undergrad in 1997, and it said it was 100% AI generated. Like, no way. There wasn't even AI, at least not like that back then. And then we submitted an AI generated paper on the same topic, and it said it was 100% human generated. So it really, the detection is really not good for AI. But let's check out this plagiarism score here. So it comes up as 17%. And I don't know why I've got these pop-ups. View the report here. So what I did was I clicked on the plagiarism, and a sample generated plagiarized paper. That's actually the name of the paper. I want to view the report. So I'm clicking this view the report button here, and it should pop up however long it takes. So what's interesting here is I just got to keep moving my, oh, let me minimize that. There we go. Minimizing Zoom. Okay. Is it's got a 75% internet score, meaning what it detected is that 75% of the contents in this paper was somehow derived from the internet. Does that mean that it is plagiarized? Not necessarily. If the student cited it correctly, then it's not necessarily plagiarized. But as a writing professor of 25 plus years, I can tell you that there is something called incidental plagiarism. And basically, if a paper is not at least 60% originally written by the student, so no more than 40% citations, it's a technical plagiarism, because the paper has to be their own unique work. And if it's 75% likely internet work, there is a high probability that this paper was plagiarized. Does that make sense? Because we want students to create their own original content. And I'm going to pause before I go any further into the report, and just because I see there's something in the chat. Dylan, do we have a question in the chat?
No, I just for reference through our knowledge base article on how to
Awesome.
so people can reference it, and that'll
Awesome.
grow
Thank
as
you.
we learn more about the tool.
Excellent. Thank you. Okay, so so as you can see, there's parts of this that are highlighted, and as I highlight them, it changes color, and I can click on them, and it will jump to that part of the report where this information came from. So here I've got something, it is in quotations, and it has a citation, history.com editors. Now, I don't know if I've got an English teacher in the room, but as an English teacher, that is not how you cite. Definitely not how you cite. And to say nothing of the fact that they threw a quote right into the middle of a paragraph, without any context or explanation, no, tisk tisk, not good paper. So ChatGPT did not generate a good paper. And kind of on the subject of AI in general anyway, this is dangerous because not only are students going to fly to AI to try and streamline or save time, because research shows that students will plagiarize when they feel pressure, when they feel a tremendous amount of pressure. And college is a lot of pressure. So the likelihood of plagiarism does increase, and AI does make it easier for them to plagiarize. And so if they're feeling a lot of pressure, they might plagiarize. But the problem is that they're not going to realize that it's going to be bad. Like, even the best generated papers that I have received since I have been teaching for the last year and a half, I teach ethics, information literacy, English comp. These are all on rotating bases. And instructional design and methods of teaching art in the K-12 classroom. And I can always tell when it's AI generated, and it's never been a better than a C- paper. So it's also hurting the student, not just the cheating, but it's not even effective cheating. I once had an instructional designer say, cheating is still learning, because if you're engaging in effective cheating, right, you're actually doing some work that's going to make you walk away with some knowledge. No, you should not be cheating. I am not endorsing cheating, but I am saying if you did a good job at cheating, you're going to learn something. Because there's no way that you could cheat well and not pick up something from what you did. Again, not saying that cheating is good, just saying that if you're cheating well, you're learning something. So in this paper, we have our report. We have over here what should be cited. In this particular paper, there's no works cited page. So this automatically would get an F because it's plagiarized. There's in-text citations, but no works cited. So let's go back and look and see if the one that I just did, the one that did have a works cited page, is done baking. And then and while we're waiting for that to come up, does anyone have any questions?
I have another question.
Sure.
I happen to have a bunch of vitamin D papers that I ran through the teacher scanning tool. And so because I'm not an English teacher, I'm a culinary teacher. I don't really know, I have one up that has 74% matched text. However, she has like names that she's getting this information from. And so, maybe it's more of an ethical question, but how much as a culinary teacher should I care about, as long as they have that cited page, like for trades as well. I don't know if anybody else here is in trades, but I guess that's a personal decision, right? Like, how much should I care about the format? If if this student is going to 28 different websites and getting information on vitamin D, like you said, I would count that as learning.
Yes. Yes.
So I don't know, like that matched text as well as the domains gives some information for how much somebody studied. But it's also, it's bothersome that you're like copy pasting.
So you actually did answer your question yourself, but I'm gonna give some of it back to you. So you're right. That is an ethics question. Not every course is meant to teach you perfect citation style. And you're right. If she is listing 28 citations, she is showing learning. Yes, maybe she cited way too many things. That was probably her being nervous, and being like, I want to make sure I get this right. And it's up to you and your teaching philosophy how to treat that. And so generally how I would recommend you treat that is you build into your syllabus a teaching philosophy about how you will manage documented work or written artifacts of any kind, whether it's a discussion board or what have you. just have a philosophy in there where you say whatever makes sense for you. And so what I just heard, these people in your class are not likely to go on to publish cookbooks in peer-reviewed journals, right? And if they publish a cookbook, they're probably not going to need to know perfect MLA citation style because the cookbook is going to have its own in-house publishing style. So you could say, as long as I see that an attempt has been made to cite sources and I am able to find those sources, I will accept that as effort done. Like that could be your teaching philosophy. You could also be very strict and you could say you must follow perfect MLA 9th citation style. Otherwise, your paper will be considered plagiarized. It is whatever matters to you as an instructor, to your program, to your course, and to your learning goals. But you have the right to decide that for yourself. Does that make sense? And of course, within the college's guidelines, but the college is pretty broad about that. But does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. I think that's helpful.
Okay. All right. So we know that this paper was also 100% AI generated. And see, this is good that we still have the AI detector on. It only says it's 85% AI generated. So again, we're seeing why we did not purchase the AI detection. But 76% plagiarized. This is good because remember, I asked it to plagiarize. So let's view the report. Let's check this one out. This is the vitamin D paper that we just did. And look at this. Okay, so first of all, everything is highlighted. That already is a concern. So it's saying 76.1% matched text. That means that they matched this. So remember, I did say make sure that it demonstrates blatant plagiarism. So this is meant to show you, and I did that on purpose because I wanted you to see what a plagiarized paper is likely to look like. But this is quite a lot of highlighted text. And matched text does not mean necessarily word for word. It could mean high similarity. Now, with something like vitamin D and its nutritional impact on the body, there's a high probability that there are hundreds of websites that say very nearly the same thing, right? How many different ways can you talk about vitamin D? I'm not the expert. So how many different ways are there? Like 100, 50, 75. So it is possible that this student did write an original paper. And it just happens that there's not a lot of differentiation in how vitamin D affects the body. And so it's going to look like a lot of sources. So when you're looking at a report, you're still using your critical thinking skills as an educator. You're just getting a leg up. You're getting an extra head start because you're able to match what you see with where it was found, right? So I click on this and it tells me over here, this is the website that came from. And look, I don't see any citation here. This is the website it came from, but there's no citation at the end of that. You see? Over here, website it came from. This one has a citation at the end, but it also comes after a line of text that isn't highlighted. So I've got citation coming in at a place that should be students' original content. Does that make sense? So highlighted means it came from somewhere. Unhighlighted means it was likely written by the student. So I have a citation that's coming in that was likely written by the student. So this is there's definite questions here. And so the next step here would be, what do you do next when you suspect plagiarism? And I'm going to talk about that in more detail when I talk about AI, which I'm going to jump to next. But very briefly, I just wanted to point out, remember, this sample paper did give us these articles because I asked it to cite its sources in APA format. Now, this one is not coming up as a URL, so I'm just going to see if it even works. Sometimes ChatGPT will give you a real article, and sometimes it won't. And in this case, it did. So this one, the vitamin D deficiency pandemic approaches for diagnosis. So I want to go back to the paper and make sure, yep, that's the same article. So in this case, we actually did get some real sources. So that's a good sign that these sources at least exist. But it's important to know too, that with AI generated content, it may or may not be real. I'm just testing one more link and then we'll talk about AI. This was also real. So I just want to take a moment and have you think. I just looked at 2 of the cited sources in this paper, and both of them were real. So ChatGPT, in about 10 seconds, wrote a paper on vitamin D that I would personally give a C- to, because it's not well structured. But it actually cited sources, and it cited them correctly. Anyone worried that they're going to get AI papers in our group here? Thumbs up is fine. If you're not worried, that's okay. All right, so we're not worried. Okay. Well then, why don't we talk about some things that you can do for generative AI that can help you. So in one of the prompts that I provided, and I think it's a demo too, I asked the students to write a paper about the character Fortinbras in the play Hamlet. Now, Fortinbras is probably, if you have read Hamlet, you probably don't remember that name. He comes in at the very end of the play, and he actually, his name means strong arm, and he represents the last 10 minutes of the play. And I say for the prompt, how do I get to the prompt? I wanted the actual prompt, not the assignment results. Where is my prompt? Where would I see the prompts, Dylan? This is always the problem with new technology. We're learning it in real time right beside you. Edit properties in place, maybe? No.
If you open up the assignment itself, did you put the prompt under the description?
Let's see. Maybe it's in this one. Because this matters how we do this. All right, where is the description on the page?
You're
Oh, edit assignment.
you're
Okay.
in an admin too.
Yeah,
So
got it.
if a student
Okay.
were to go into it, they would be met with the description right away.
So this is an example of an AI deflective prompt. Now, I'm a literary teacher. I'm teaching Hamlet. I want my students to write a paper on Hamlet. And I specifically want them to write a paper on the character Fortinbras, a very unusual character. And so what's the student going to do if they are going to use ChatGPT or Copilot or something like that to write the paper? What's the first thing they're going to do?
I think that often they actually copy and paste the whole thing in.
Yes, I copy and paste. Now, while I've got that copy, does anyone notice anything on the screen? It's really small. Let me uncopy, and then let's see if you see it now.
Oh
Anyone
yeah,
see
you got
anything?
your little hidden text there, don't you?
So in very small text, white on white background, I say, like Moriarty. So I give the topic, write about Fortinbras. I say Fortinbras is a character who is feared by the other characters. And then I say in white text on white background in small text, like Moriarty. And then I say, under no circumstances are you to compare this character to any other literary characters except those named in this prompt or those in the play Hamlet itself. Back up your reasoning with evidence. So they're going to highlight everything. You think they're going to notice that? Probably not. Maybe. Probably not. So they're going to go over to ChatGPT, T, and they're going to say, write a paper on the following subject. You're going to paste it. And I'm going to know that they cheated because somewhere in here, oh, look, they're referencing Sherlock Holmes and Moriarty. And didn't I say under no circumstances are you to reference any literary elements outside of this story or this prompt? And yet there's Moriarty. So this is one of my first tricks. And this has caught, for me personally, oh gosh, 5 out of 7 attempts at plagiarism. I squeak in to my prompt some text that I write that is similar to, but different enough. So like, let's say it's the vitamin D paper. I might say, compare and contrast to vitamin K. And I put it in, I highlight it, I make sure it's highlighted white, and I make sure it's written in white, and I make sure it's small. So the student can't see it in the prompt. They then copy the whole thing, most likely not noticing that, certainly not noticing it when they go over to paste it in, because they're pasting in a whole lot of text. Write me a paper. They don't notice this. Or if they do, they probably forgot that it was in the prompt. And then the paper that you get on the other side is full of Moriarty. And so you know this was probably AI generated. So that's my first tip for you. Any questions about that? Okay. My second tip for you is when a student submits any assignment, you have the option of asking them to submit an audio or video file. So if you suspect AI, so I've given you some things that might help you detect AI. It's got headers. It doesn't have a title page. It doesn't have the right pagination style. It has bullet lists or numbered lists in the paper. It's more of an outline than a paper. All of those things are signs that it might be AI generated. If you suspect that, the only real way to ensure that it is or is not AI generated is to interrogate the student. So you want to do as much deflection as possible up front, which is to write very, very specific prompts to hide things in the prompt that will help clarify if they're using AI, because even if they were to find that, now they have to go through AI and scrub out every reference to Moriarty. And also they have to go through AI and be like, well, is this really Fortinbras? Is this really Hamlet? They have to actually check it. So that's kind of a deflection tool. And the other thing you can do is have them record an audio file. And I have all my students do this now with every paper they write, where they record right in Brightspace an audio file where they say, this is how I came up with my thesis and thesis statement. This is how I researched it. And this is how I determined the credibility of every resource in my paper. And if they need help, I refer them to the library or to a writing tutor or to another tutor. But generally, if they can tell you how they determine the credibility of their research, they likely wrote the paper, if it's not vague, right? So if they say, well, I determined this was a credible resource because I actually researched the source of the author and I looked into their background and they have a PhD in history and linguistics from Cornell and they're published in 17 journals. So I have a pretty good idea that they're a legit resource. If that's in the audio file, then I know the student probably did their work. And even if parts of this are AI generated, it might be okay because they did the work. If I suspect that a student did submit something that was AI generated and it's not okay with me because it wasn't part of the assignment, then I would investigate and I would generally call them into a meeting where I ask them questions about the paper. And if a student wrote the paper, they should be able to answer those questions themselves. I'm actually gonna pull up the citation so that we can look at that at the end. So one example that I have is I had a student in one of my ethics classes, yes, ethics, who compared Aristotle's virtue ethics and applied it to a character in a Dostoevsky book. And I knew that this student had not read Dostoevsky, just context clues made it very clear he had never read this particular book. And so I said in my interview with the student, what made you decide to use this Dostoevsky character to exemplify Aristotle's theory of virtue ethics? And the student said, well, if the paper's wrong, I'll rewrite it. And I said, okay, I really want you to explain to me how Dostoevsky relates to Aristotle's virtue ethics. And the student said, I don't know what to tell you. If there's something wrong with the paper, I'll just write it again. And he just kept repeating that. And so finally I said, okay, I've just given you an opportunity to defend your paper and you weren't able to give me any reason to believe that you wrote this. So I am giving you a 0. You are welcome to rewrite it. However, if you rewrite it, you will have to do it under a proctored circumstance. You will need to find proctoring yourself, and you will have to submit to another interview with me to generate and prove to me that you did in fact write this paper. So that is a lot of work for faculty, and I know that we don't have a lot of time to do that, but think of it as a deterrent, right? So if you are doing some of these little tweaks where you add that little white text that is kind of a throw off so that you get some hint that the AI generated something. You look for the headers, you look for the bullet lists, the numbered lists, you have them do that audio file, and the audio file maybe is a little vague. Every now and again, you interview a student and you interrogate the paper and they can't answer any of the questions. You're not going to have to do that for everybody because you have deterred their use of AI just by showing them how much work it's going to be to use AI in your class if you don't want them to. There are times and places when you might want them to. Maybe it's easy for you to have them generate an outline using AI. Maybe that's okay. Maybe you need them to, maybe the course is on AI. Maybe the course is on social media marketing and you want AI to help you. Maybe it is on programming or scripting because AI can also help you with HTML or different coding stacks, and you want your students to get somewhere faster. There are times and places where AI is useful and effective. But if a student is using AI effectively, they will and should cite it. And MLA and APA and Chicago Tiberian, they all have methods now for how AI should be cited. So in MLA, AI should be cited in text based on the author or the title rather of the prompt they entered into whatever OpenAI source they used. And then the actual works cited entry, just like any citation, matches up to the in-text citation. So it names the prompt, it labels it as a prompt, it says which AI it used, the date that the prompt was entered, the version of the AI, because there are multiple versions. Some versions actually cut off. So there was a period where ChatGPT stopped absorbing internet information. It was 2021. So if you needed articles from 2021 to 2024, you weren't getting them. So it is important to know what version they used, what vendor for that particular source, the actual date of access, and then the link. And a lot of times, as you saw, AI will generate a link. So this is a link right here. I could actually link to this, this answer by clicking the share button. And I could send you, the faculty member, to the exact thing that AI spit out for me. So if I want to use AI, or if I want my students to use AI, and I ask them to cite it, this could be how we allow them to do that. And the other thing that I will say is there is a document floating around. It's about 4 pages with different AI policies that you can select for your course based on your course needs. around whether or not you allow AI sometimes under some circumstances, no times under no circumstances, all the time under all circumstances. Like there's variations of how you may or may not use AI, because AI is not, it's not completely terrible. And I wish I had time to get to the many ways we can use it for productivity. Dylan and I both use it daily for productivity. We have gone over time, but maybe we can take our last minute and unmute our microphones and everybody come up with one method for using AI, ChatGPT, or any generative AI that could be a productive method for our teaching, learning, or professional lives. And I'll start. I used AI now to generate papers for sample assignments to show you all how our new plagiarism detection software works. That saved me a whole lot of time. Who's next?
I use it frequently for rewriting emails that are extremely long that I wrote out, you know, like run-on paragraphs, just kind of a stream of consciousness that you can then break down, create an outline from it. You know, it does all the heavy lifting.
Love that. I would add to that tone checks,
Yes, that as
especially in
well.
email. Yes, because you're like, does this sound okay? ChatGPT is really good at that. So is Copilot.
Right.
Who wants to go next?
I started to explore how to use it for creating some different activities for assignments, like writing a case
Yes.
study based on diagnosis, age group, etc. I don't take it and copy and paste it. I take ideas from it and then build my case study because I don't find that it does it perfectly, but at least it gets the process started.
I love it. Awesome.
Just this week, this is Bonnie, just this week, I started having the students do knowing the difference between professional writing and student type. And then so I'm starting with the title page and they're not liking it. It's just like a title page for a quiz, but they're going to do that for the next few weeks. So that's a good start for us.
I have one more way that I use ChatGPT, and I will share it in a moment. But Stephanie, did you have anything you wanted to add?
Sure. I make some of the menus that we have, like I've found it to be helpful to plug in some of the information that I already have for menus and then say like, can you generate some more specific appetizers for the Burgundy region of France? And I'm like, oh yeah, I knew that. Why didn't I think of that? You know, but it just like pulls it up in your brain a little faster than you could do in a physical way. So
well, it's scraped millions of cookbooks, so it knows combinations, right? Like it may not have taste buds, but it knows combinations.
Right.
The one other way I meant to tell you that I have used AI is when I suspect a student has used AI to create a paper, I copy their paper and I go to ChatGPT and I say, ChatGPT, please identify all of the signals or hallmarks that indicate this paper may have been AI generated. And then ChatGPT calls them out for me. They say this paper was likely AI generated because it does this, 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 and this. And I'm like, thanks, ChatGPT. You're my bud. So you can use the tool against what it was used for in the first place as well. Okay, so the paper that is being published in Advances in Online Education includes a flowchart for when it is appropriate to use AI generative tools and when it isn't. And it also includes a toolkit for educators, students, and professionals for when like best use cases. And as soon as that is published, I will be sharing that with the KV community so you all have access to it as well. Any last minute burning questions before we wrap up for the day?
I have
One thing I just wanted to add. Oh,
Okay.
go ahead, Stephanie.
Just the grade books. So when I actually like, as you're talking, I was creating one of my next paper assignments with the Copyleaks, so they have to submit it. In the grade book, I do see that like at the bottom, you can include it in the grade book.
Mm-hmm.
Does it translate pretty well from your experience? Can I add a rubric? I didn't see a place to add a rubric.
I have not found how you can add a rubric to a Copyleaks assignment yet.
Okay.
because Copyleaks exists as an external tool, rubrics is not embedded in it. However, when you add it to your gradebook, if you're using a weighted gradebook, I can't remember yours off the top of my head. I think you are using weights. Once you add it after the fact, you do have to go into manage grades and just make sure it's in the right column, in the in the right category.
Yep.
Yep.
Great.
But we should follow up. Dylan, let's follow up on the rubric thing because that is likely to come up often. And Dylan, you had something to add?
Yeah, we didn't get to the teacher scanning tool, so
Right.
I'll link that as well. We have a write-up on that. All right.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks. And in the invitation, of course, there is a link to our YouTube channel, a link to our knowledge base. We are maintaining everything that we are doing for professional development in places you can look. So feel free to take a peek if you're ever stuck in Brightspace or any other instructional technology, and maybe your answer is there. Thanks for coming today, everybody. Hope to see you at the next one. Dylan, if you could hang back with me.
Yep.
Thanks all.